Hey Cancer, welcome back. I'm Brian with Arrows of Love. I'm back after a short hiatus. I took the month of August off. If you guys follow my channel, my last video, I talk a little bit about what was happening with me. Right now, Saturn, sitting over in Aquarius, is squaring my moon in Taurus. And I'm a Cancer rising, I'm ruled by the moon. So anything that aspects my moon tends to have a very dramatic impact on me. So with Saturn, it tends to be repressive, oppressive, depressive, and I just had some very low energy over the last month. There's been a lot happening here in the United States. I'm located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. See, I'm growing out my beard, doing a little lumberjack thing here. But there's been a lot happening in the United States, and it's taken me not only personally some time to come back to the tarot, and I've been watching the astrology, obviously. But just processing everything that's been happening. And I finally think I have it down. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time today on the astrology. For those of you that just want to take a look at the tarot, feel free to fast forward through this if you don't want to hear it. But I think there's some really enlightening things in the sky that are happening that correlate a lot to what's happening here in the United States. So we're going to talk about the astrology for September 2021. And it's been an interesting one to say the least. So the first thing I want to talk about is some aspects happening between Venus and Pluto. Venus right now is in Libra. It's in her sign of dignity. It's her home temple. She rules Libra. And Libra is a sign of balance, harmony, negotiation, cooperation, seeing both sides of the story. It's looking for the win-win. It's about balance. It's a sign of the scale. So it has this element of legality to it sometimes, fairness, karmic justice. And it's all things, it's trying to create a cooperating, harmonizing environment, especially when she's in her home sign of Libra. Venus, however, was making a square that's a harsh 90-degree angle over to alchemical Pluto. And Pluto is this planet of the underworld. It's things unseen. It's known to be a planet of death and transformation, rebirth, healing. But it can also be unseemly things as well. So Venus was perfecting the square, and squares are the nature of Mars, so it's action-oriented, over to Pluto and Capricorn. And that was on September 5th. So just a few days ago, I'm doing this video on September 8th. So right now, Venus is separating from the square. She's about 2 to 3 degrees away, so we're still feeling the effects of this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how this manifested for me in my personal life. So Venus-Pluto. This combination can revitalize sexual nature, a sexual relationship. It can be very passionate at times, not just sexually, but just creating a lot of passion within relationships overall. But Venus-Pluto is always something coming up underneath the surface, something that's lurking, something that's unseen. It can be secrets. It can be something that's very unseemly. It can be jolting even at times. It can be grotesque at times. It has something to do with purging, excreting, releasing of some type with relationships, healing, sexuality even. And the big news story that I think goes with this, and by the way, the United States is a Cancer, July 4th. 1776, the United States is a Cancer, so just for all you Cancers out there, sometimes it's interesting to see the interplay between your personal life and what's happening with the nation. So if you want to take a look at that, a lot of times Venus-Pluto has a lot to do with women's sexual reproduction and women's issues, generally speaking, come up during this time. Sometimes it has to do with rape and incest and some really unseemly things. But you can see here in the United States, there's a new conversation coming back up. It's not really new. It's another conversation coming up about a woman's right to abortion. And for those of you that know me and follow this channel, you'll know that I'm a lawyer. So I do follow these things very closely. And this issue of abortion rights has now resurfaced again with this new Texas law. And it was starting to come to light as Venus was starting to apply or coming up to perfect its square over to Pluto. And again, Venus sitting in Libra, it's the sign of the scales, oftentimes represents courts, justice, fairness, and balance. And it's creating this harsh angle over to Pluto sitting in Capricorn. And Capricorn is known for government, structures, the economy, You can see the dichotomy between the two, and you have the Congress right now debating what to do with some of the things that the courts are doing. So you can see that there's tension, a squaring aspect related to this particular issue. So how does this relate to your personal life, Cancer? Libra is your 4th house. It is 4 signs past Cancer. Capricorn is your 7th house. It's on the opposite side of the wheel from Cancer. It's your 7th house. And that has to do with marriage, one-on-one relationships, sexuality, friendship sometimes, legal contracts. The 4th house has to do with home, family, motherhood, ancestry, roots and foundations. So you can see how these themes are going to come up for you personally in your life. Now, as we just went through a new moon in Virgo, Sun is sitting over in Virgo right now, so that's communication sector for you. That's your 3rd house. Local community as well. It's a busy house. It's a chatty, busy house. So there's a lot of communication going on right now. I definitely have that going on with work and some other things in life. But yesterday, and even this morning, I got news from 2 friends that family members passed. And Pluto is this planet of death and transformation and rebirth. But the thing is, Venus, while it's making this harsh aspect, the square, 90-degree square over to Pluto, it's also making a trine. These are blessings, generally speaking, over to Jupiter, which is this planet of good luck, expansion, morality, growth, mentors, and it's sitting over there in Aquarius right now. It's going through its retrograde cycle, and that's your 8th house of death. It's the 8th house of transformation. It's the 8th house of other people's money, resources, riches, possessions, banking, anything of that sort. And I work at a bank. So one of my colleagues informed me yesterday that her father passed. And then this morning, my best friend texted me. We're supposed to go on this hiking trip up north, up in the north shore of Minnesota. Texted me this morning he can't go because his uncle passed yesterday. So there is a lot of energy sitting in that 8th house, and that's where Saturn is sitting. It's sitting in Aquarius, and now Jupiter's there as well. So when you see these aspects over to the 8th house of death, the 7th house of marriage, one-on-one relationships, friendships, and this 4th house of family, you can see how this is coming up for me personally. Now, I haven't had a death in my family. Fingers crossed. I hope that doesn't happen. But you can see how these themes are going to play out for us. So Cancers, we're going through a period of death right now with that 8th house being activated by Saturn. It's going to be there until March of 2023. So we have to get used to where death fits in our life. Oftentimes that 8th house brings up more of a psychological death. Something that's just not working out for us, something that has to be released and purged. Other times it is a physical death. And I've seen this, and other astrologers have mentioned this too. Oftentimes, we associate death with Pluto, sometimes Saturn, which is old age, decay, but a lot of times it has to do with Jupiter. Jupiter just moved back into that 8th house of Aquarius right now. Venus is making a trine over to Jupiter, and also this harsh square over to Pluto. So sometimes it's a release or a purge, but there's some blessing that comes of it. There's something that's very healing, or perhaps there's a silver lining to whatever comes up during this time. So, with one of my friends, she indicated to me that her father was sick for a while. It's been very difficult on the family. It's been very difficult on him. So even though death is a time of loss and mourning, it's also a time of release and also of a weight being lifted sometimes, because sometimes it's just a huge exhale of energy that has to be released. And sometimes it's actually very, not just healing, but it's a release of a huge weight oftentimes. So look at it this way. Whatever's happening in your personal life right now, Cancer, whatever tension is happening between this Venus-Pluto dynamic that's separating, there is a silver lining to this. There are some blessings that actually come of this as well. So look for it, because it is there in fact. And this is just what's happening with me. Now, coming up here, we have some interesting things for the rest of September. So September 23rd, I want to fast forward just a few weeks, because I think this is really the headliner for the month. Our dear Venus is going to move into Scorpio. And in Scorpio, she is debilitated. And I'll explain a little bit here. Venus rules Libra and Taurus. Scorpio, where she's going to be moving in the next few days, is her sign of debilitation. It's on the exact opposite side of the wheel from her home sign of Taurus. So here she's debilitated. We can see some of the shadow qualities of Venus come out during this time. Scorpio is the house of Mars, after all. Mars is this planet of war, action, aggression sometimes, also virility. But here, Venus is more of the warrior. So she has more of these shadow qualities come out. So it has to do with lust, vanity, sometimes a little bit aggressive in love even. And things start bubbling up from the surface because Scorpio is this sign of intense emotional underpinnings, but you don't see it all. They keep it hidden in. So, and it's also the planet of the sign of the underworld. So things start to bubble up during this time when Venus happens to be traveling through Scorpio. Now, personally, I will tell you, I've tracked this particular transit because as a Cancer rising, this happens to be our 5th house. Scorpio is 5 signs past Cancer. The 5th house is the house of joy. It's the house of pleasure. It's also fun and romance, children, games, entertainment, sports. So when Venus is here, she tends to have more of these shadow qualities. And I've had more relationships break down during this time when Venus travels through Scorpio than any other time. It just happens to be a time in my life where it tends to be very intense. I think it's because Venus is debilitated while she's in this 5th house. So I've had romances break down. I've had really big things come out during this time throughout my entire life that were hidden to me. And the truth comes out, the truth is revealed, something is released and purged during this time. And it's always about truth, it's about transformation. And while it can be jolting at times, I always find that after Venus leaves Scorpio, there is a huge metamorphosis, so to speak, in my personal psyche and in my relationships. And I come to an understanding, a higher understanding of where it is I'm going and what had to be released. So I want people to be aware of this. Venus and Scorpio can be difficult. Like I said, lust, vanity, the shadow qualities of Venus. Relationships will be tested at this time. And on top of it, on the 23rd, Venus is going to be making an opposition over to Uranus. And Uranus is this planet of freedom, liberation, change, shock and awe, sudden change, sudden news. So Uranus is sitting over in Venus's home sign right now. That's Taurus. Venus is debilitated in an exact opposite sign, the sign of Mars, over in Scorpio. I think oftentimes we're going to see some breakups, some shakeups in relationships, things that aren't working coming to light during this time. And it's a purge. It's a release. It's a metamorphosis of relationships. I think it's going to be challenging during this time, especially because Venus is in that debilitated state over in Scorpio right now. During that exact time, right around the 23rd, the 22nd and the 23rd, this is really when the energy is going to be hot. Our planet Mercury of communication is going to be making this same square over to Pluto. Mercury will be in Libra during this time, so that is the sign of the home sign of Venus, and Mercury is going to be making the square over to Pluto right around the same exact day that Venus will be opposing Uranus. So Mercury, Pluto, again, this is communication from the underworld. This is secrets revealed. It can be quite enlightening, to say the least, because Pluto is this planet of things unseen. It's a planet of release, planet of healing. And when we're making the square, it's something that can be quite jolting at times, something that really needs to come to the surface that's been bubbling up, so to speak. But again, Mercury is going to be making a trine over to Jupiter. So it's something that could be quite revealing, but also very healing. And there's a silver lining to this type of communication. It's a thought process of some type. Mercury is also thoughts, but it's sitting in the sign of Venus, the sign of partnership. So relationships are going to be tested during this time. On top of it, Mercury is going to be stationing retrograde during this week. So about September 23rd all the way till the 29th, Mercury is going to be perfecting the square over to to Pluto, and then moving retrograde for the next 3.5 weeks through the sign of Libra. So it's a test of partnerships, it's a test of relationships, it's a test of how do we cooperate and negotiate with others to find middle ground when people might want freedom and liberation during this time. So it's going to be a challenging couple of weeks coming up here, and the energy is building at this time. So I think we're going to see a lot of things happening with relationships. I think relationships will certainly be tested during this time, and we have to just be prepared for whatever is coming up. And I'm just saying it's Pluto energy, it's Plutonian, it's meant to really shake things up, it's meant to release and purge, and then to go through this healing process. And it's going to be happening pretty much all of October, but the energy really starts to build toward the end of September, which is also the fall equinox, by the way. So the same day, the 23rd, 22nd of September, the sun is going to be at the very last degrees of Virgo, moving into Libra. And that's always the mark of the fall equinox, which means the night and the day are about the same. They're equal. And we're moving into a period where the night will now be longer than the day. So the night grows during this time. If you want to think about it metaphorically in terms of the darkness is starting to take over as we move into the latter half of the year here, well, the latter quarter of the year at least. So shadow qualities tend to come out. It's time to do some shadow work, time to deal with the darkness, so to speak, and knowing where we need to do some work. Where are the trigger points where we really do have to pay attention? And it's a purging of some type because Pluto is very much involved. Venus-Uranus. Venus-Uranus can also point to sexuality, so people could come out during this time, if gay, lesbian, whatever it might be. Just know that oftentimes it's a marker for people. So we have a lot going on, and it's all happening in that fifth house of romance, children, fun, games. I think a lot of us are going to be reviewing what brings us joy, and that 11th house of Taurus, where Uranus is sitting, has a lot to do with friends, allies, group associations. So I think a lot of us are going to be reviewing the friend group or associations. Could be financial. Sometimes the 5th and 11th house also has to do with finances, gains, taking risks. So be aware. Not necessarily a time to be investing money into the stock market. Venus sitting, especially for you, Cancer, Venus sitting over in that 5th house, debilitated. Sometimes rules investments. I'd say hold off until Venus and Mercury pass through the retrograde phase. So not until maybe like November-ish. I'd say don't be investing in the stock market right now until November. So that's what's happening in the sky. It's a lot. And what's interesting about this Venus-Pluto square that just perfected a few days ago, Venus is going to be retrograde in Capricorn toward the end of the year and the beginning of 2022. And it's going to be crossing over Pluto. So I think this abortion issue is certainly going to be coming to light again. And we can see more happening around this time, possibly with Congress, right around the end of the year or the beginning of the year. But Venus retrogrades are always very difficult for relationships. I'll get more into that and what happened to me the last time Venus went retrograde. It happened to be in Gemini in the 12th house, which can be a very difficult house, but now it's going to be in the 7th. But that's a little bit ways out, but I think we're going to be revisiting a lot of these themes again toward the later half of the year, beginning of 2022. So Cancer, let's see what's happening with the tarot. I wanted to talk about these themes coming up with Venus sitting in Libra, Venus sitting in Scorpio. You really have to pay attention to what's happening between the 23rd and the 29th. Those are going to be big happenings for people. I think a lot of news is going to be coming out. I think people are going to be wanting to shake up relationships. Some of you are going to want to exit relationship. Others of you are going to want to change something about your relationships. It's just that time of the year. Like I said, for me personally, I've had some of the hardest relationship things come down on me when Venus is in Scorpio. And I'm a Cancer rising. So I'm letting you know this. I'm giving you a little extra tidbit. I'll go into it a little bit more with some of the other signs, but generally that's what you can expect. So, all right. Let's do the tarot. I'm going to lay 6 cards today. It's going to be a modified Celtic cross. We're also going to pull general energy from the Angels Romance deck to see what's happening for you. This is for Cancer rising, Moon, Venus, and Sun. As always, these are general readings. They're not going to resonate with all of you. Take the messages that do, leave the rest. If you like these videos and would like to see more of them, please click the like button and subscribe. It helps the channel and is very much appreciated from me. All right. Let's see what's going on with you, Cancer. The sun keeps popping in and out. So see, it's just one of those days. Light and dark, going back and forth. And you know the other thing about Mercury, Mercury is this planet of communication. What I want to talk about with that retrograde, it's going to be happening in that 4th house of home, family, foundations, roots. And it's hitting that 7th house where Pluto was sitting, marriage, relationships. So just expect to be reviewing something with family, maybe a partner's family, could be a friend's family as well, someone you're associated with. So you could see things come up during that time. But expect those themes with at least Mercury retrograde this time around. It's going to be hitting home and family. That's the 4th house, but possibly with a partner as well. So that's what's coming up for us. Yay. All right, I think this is pretty well shuffled, Cancer. Let's do a little bit more here. I haven't pulled my cards out in a while, so got to get this good shuffle. It's good to be back. You guys leave comments. It's good to hear from people again. Like I said, I just needed to take some time out for myself. Process what's going on in the world. But we're still here. And we got to support our loved ones. Cancer, you know that better than anybody. So let's see what's going on for you, Cancer. This is for Cancer. General energies from the angels. Free yourself. It's time to take back control of your life, right? So Cancer, this is saying there's something holding you back. There is something that needs to be purged and released. That is that Venus-Pluto energy. That is that Mercury-Pluto energy. It's also that Venus opposing Uranus, wanting to free yourself and liberate yourself from something. So look at, this is the unicorn, caged up. No one puts baby in a corner. No one puts the unicorn in a cage. Got to free yourself from something that needs to be purged from your life. We will get more to this. Let's see what the tarot has to say. First cut out is the general energies. Knight of Pentacles. This is what's crossing you. Ace of Wands. Wanting a new start of some type here, huh, Cancer? Let's see here, what's next? This is what's coming up for you, the world. Knight of Cups. 5 of Swords. Queen of Pentacles. That's where things are going here. So we have an interesting read. At the center we have the Knight of Pentacles. That's Earth energy. You very well could be dealing with a Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. We're in Virgo season right now. But this is you wanting to have something steady. This is you wanting, it could be a love, a love interest. Some of you, this might be job related as well. But at the center of the reading is this Knight. And I think this is what it is all Cancers really want, because your 7th house, what you're attracted to in a romantic partner, is Capricorn. Capricorn is sure-footed. It wants stability and security. It wants comfort. It wants financial resources. And this is very much this type of Knight. It's someone that provides comfort and security. It's someone that takes their time, builds a relationship on a steady foundation, something that can last the test of time. And what's crossing it right now is the Ace of Wands. An Ace of Wands energy is fire energy. It's you wanting to start something new. Some of you, again, might be releasing yourself from an old partner, an old situation, an old relationship. Others of you, you're trying to manifest this new start. It's one of passion, it's one of fire, gets you going, makes you feel alive, Cancer. But it has this element of security and comfort and stability. You could very well be meeting someone new during this time. Now, I'm going to also caution you, not a good time to be starting relationships when Venus is in Scorpio. Again, there's things unseen during that time. So you can certainly start a relationship during this time, and some of you will. It's just the nature of the beast. But be aware, you're probably not getting the full story, okay? So, and that's, we're gonna get a little bit more to that with the rest of the reading, but this is definitely you trying to create this new start. Something's gotta be released. You're trying to free yourself from an old situation. Could have something to do with finances here too. There's finance related, but it has something to do with a new start. It's something that gets you going. So we'll see what more comes of this, but in the destiny position is the world. And the world is always a culmination of events. It is the last card of the tarot. It is ostensibly about endings. And that's what Scorpio is all about. Death and transformation, rebirth. So some of you might actually revive a relationship here. Others of you, I think you're going to be reviewing the foundations of these relationships and whether or not it's working for you. And you'll notice here that the four corners of this card have the fixed signs. It's Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, Scorpio. We have Saturn sitting in Aquarius right now. That's your 8th house of death, transformation, rebirth, other people's money, lump sums. And then the eagle represents Scorpio. That's it's a higher octave Scorpio. When it finally breaks free, transforms, lets the old self die, and then flies when it enters into Sagittarius, the very next sign. So here we have Scorpio, also represented Leo. We just went through Leo's season. There's not a lot sitting in Leo right now. And then we have Taurus, which is where Uranus is sitting. So it's hitting all these fixed areas of your life right now. Alliances, friends, group associations, romance, children, death and rebirth. It's those three areas that we just talked about. Plus this relationship aspect where Pluto is sitting in that 7th house over in Capricorn. So it's the coalescing here. It's the culmination of events. It's the release and the purge. It's the completion of whatever needs to happen here. And it's coming regardless. In distant past, you turned your back on someone. You were done. The 5 of Swords is very much a card of not only defeating enemies, but also looking back and sometimes wondering, did you make the right decision? And I think you're going to have to grapple with this because things could come back during this time. Mercury retrograde brings people back. You could be reviewing the foundations and the roots of your relationships, especially with Venus retrograde in that 4th house of home, family, foundations, roots. But it's also a sign of partnership. So you're wondering, did you make the right decision here? Leaving something behind, is it working? Do you feel fulfilled? Is it confining? Is it confining you and your inner spirit? Because remember, this is what's crossing you here, Cancer. It's that new start. It's that new spark of passion. So if the past comes knocking back at your door, it's time for you to decide whether or not this is something you really want. Is this worth it? Because at the foundation here, you have the 9 of Cups. And the 9 of Cups means a couple different things. It could mean emotional abundance, be feeling really good. But on the opposite end, it can also be, what's the right word here? Ego. It's someone with a very high ego of themselves, someone that thinks about themselves, doesn't give a whole lot and takes a whole lot. This could also be a drinker. So if you're dealing with a drinker or someone that has issues with alcohol, this is very much coming up during this time. So be aware of that. It could be someone trying to, this is only for some of you, some people here, the partner is dealing with a drinking issue and they're trying to start anew. They're trying to let it go. And it's causing issues in the relationship. It's major issues. And that's what a lot of this has to do with too. Starting that new foundation, something that can be built to last, and ending, right? So that's not for all of you, that's for some of you, but some of you are dealing with someone with a big ego. Others of you need to check the ego. Make sure you're not putting the ego first. Ego is not always a bad thing, but ego can get in the way of true happiness. Thinking that a certain situation has to pass, a certain situation has to come about for you to be fulfilled. Sometimes you have to take a risk, Cancer. But this is you trying to build up those emotional foundations, being fulfilled emotionally, being abundant emotionally. But it's at the bottom of your reading. So it means trying to make this come true. You're trying to build it up, but something needs to be purged and released. And that's what the world is all about. And you're wondering, did I make the right decision here? Do I go back to this situation? I'm going to say probably not. And the reason for that is the outcome here is the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen is very much a sign of Capricorn. This is one-on-one relationships. This is a sign of really knowing what you want. She's the ultimate manifester. She knows how to manifest anything. You know, think about your favorite Capricorns, and Cancers, you always have one in your life somewhere. They know how to get it done, right? They stick to the plan, and they make it come true. And it takes perseverance, it takes hard work, it takes sacrifice, but that always comes about. Capricorn always gets what it wants at the end of the day. And this is what she's going toward. But she's got to make a sacrifice. She's got to go through the motions. She's got to dive into those emotional reserves to make it come true, to be the queen, to rise above. And it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. It's going to test you. And remember what this is all about. It's about freeing yourself from a situation that's no longer working and letting the ending occur naturally. Bringing about that new love that's steady, that brings passion, and letting go of those things that did not work. Looking back on a situation, Cancer, you have the best memory out of any sign. Cancer is known for its memory. That's how I got through my law school exams. Photographic memory, and it's a real thing with you Cancers. Leave a comment if it's you. You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's really difficult for you to leave a memory behind. And I think for some of you, you're having a hard time letting go of happy times. Things, when things were blissful. So you keep looking back at it. For whatever reason, you keep coming back to it. And I think the lesson here is you can be the queen. You can have what you want. But you have to leave that part of an old relationship, an old situation behind in order to bring in the new. I mean, this is typical spirituality, right? Doors closed, windows open. Take that part that was good and realize that that's what you want in your next relationship. That's what you want in the current relationship. But if it's not possible to get there with the current one, you're going to have to do some work on that. You're going to have to do some shadow work. Maybe things are revealed during this time. Maybe someone's got a drinking problem and it's causing some problems, or they're spending money left and right. I mean, trying to conceal their addiction of some type. Or someone's got a really big ego and they're not giving you enough. It's a give and take with Cancer. In Cancer, you give and you give and you give and you give. But sometimes you have to remember, in order to be a giver, you got to get some back. You got to get some back. So looking back at a situation that's dead isn't going to do you any good. Take those memories of what was really good, what was really great about it, and try and recreate it in the next relationship, in the next situation. Remember that Venus in Libra is all about that compromise. It's all about the win-win, finding the win-win here. And there can be a win-win, but something's got to be let go. Something has to come to an end. That's all there is to it. And you have to free yourself and you have to take back control. There's no need for anybody else to be telling Cancer what to do. You are a cardinal sign. You are still a leader, just like Aries, Capricorn, and Libra. So it's the initiation. It's that start. And you can absolutely do it, Cancer. Got to manifest, though. I hope you enjoyed this reading. This is a long one today. There's a lot going on. I wanted to give you guys a nice long read. Let me know if this is resonating with you. And as always, take care. We'll talk to you next time.